right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Hook the Line, basketball edition. So, we're repping the Purdue Boilermakers. Today is a big one. Purdue is currently sitting at number 2 in the country, 2-0, and today they are going on the road to face the number 8 Alabama Crimson Tide, who have already been tested once and went ahead and won against St. John's, number 5 in the country. Yusko, I don't know if you watched that game. I
Oh, I
watched.
did.
Alabama looks good. They look for real.
Yeah. Yeah. That game was going on in the middle of college football day too, and I just knew I had to turn it on just because for this matchup specifically, and I didn't really know where that team stood after losing, Mark Sears and a few other guys. So I just wanted to see what they looked like, and yeah, it scared me a little bit because those guys know how to play basketball. Nate Oates is showing that he's a good coach. They play a bunch of different styles, and they're athletes. So this is going to be a huge test for a Purdue team with some high expectations. I love that we schedule these games because it tells us kind of where we're at early in the year, what needs to be fixed, what's maybe an issue, right? And Painter's going to build off this game whether it's a win or an L. So
Yeah. No, I agree. And, Alabama, they have a certain style of play that they stick to. This is kind of a contrasting style. I think Purdue, since ED left, has gotten a little bit faster, but typically Matt Painter's offense is going to be a little bit more slower set up. Alabama's going to be the exact opposite. Like, we're not
yeah,
shit up. We're chucking threes. We're running the floor. We're beating you with our athletes, and we're beating you with our three-point shooting. So Purdue's going to have to really, really be able to compete athletically to stay in this game and take care of the ball.
yeah. So that's what impressed me actually, because you're very right in the fact that Purdue likes to operate in the half court, right? Painter wants to get ball screens going, setting down screens, pin downs, cross screens, all those good stuff, like nitty gritty basketball things that Purdue does really well. Um, and Alabama really impressed me in their half court offense, to be honest with you, right? Because obviously everyone knows them as, a high paced team, get the ball down the floor, finish at the rim with athleticism, right? But Phylon and Holloway really operated really well with the ball in their hands and high ball screens, and they played with really good spacing too. Like if you watch their game, right, they'll have Holloway or Phylon with the ball, big guy come up to set the screen, but everybody else is out of the way, right? So now you open up all these gaps for these athletes to hit full speed, either get a lay, you know, send help from the weak side, right? And so now you got a guy wide open for a three, and that's their game, right? Even if they're on the fast breaking transition, they want to get a layup or a three. And if they're able to do it in the half court as well as in the transition, right? How do you stop them? So once again, really big for Purdue to stop them in one of those. Obviously, preferably the half court because they're one of the best in transition. And can Purdue get high quality shots? We chucked a lot of threes against Oakland, right? There was a little bit of a scare there. They play a zone
35
style defense.
threes, by the way. 35, that's the number.
35, yeah, that's a good number. They threw us in a zone which made you force those corner threes, which really weren't falling for a large part of that game, which kind of scares me. But it's a different team going into this game. We didn't have our All Americans forward Trey Kaufman, who's supposed to be playing tonight. Should see how the offense looks with him. I know for a fact that you're going to want to operate more of a half court with him, just because he's a threat on the block in the post and as a screen roller and stuff like that. So it should be interesting. Obviously, a road environment's tough, especially earlier in the year. And I mean, they're a top three team in the SEC, right? So that building's going to be packed, going to be rowdy. More of the pressure is kind of on us. I mean, it should be a good game. I don't know. What are your thoughts going in? I know you're more of an SEC specialist than I am, given your Auburn ties. And
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean,
what do you see?
last year, Alabama ran, I don't have to say anything other than that. Alabama ran. They probably ran the most of any team, just up and down the floor. That's their key. They have bigs that will run the floor very quickly. And
Yep.
my question marks come with Oscar Clough running the floor alongside those athletic bigs for Bama, and then their guards potentially being able to shoot and get those long rebounds. Um, Long rebounds are probably going to be the key. We were
Yeah.
at the game last year where Alabama played us, and for a lot of the game, Alabama probably was in front and was dominating a little bit of the game, but a lot of that came from the offensive glass. So Purdue's going to have to do a really good job of finding a body, boxing out on those athletic bigs, whether it's TKR, Oscar Clough down low. As soon as that shot goes up, or even before the shot goes up, if it looks like they're getting ready to shoot, you have to immediately diagnose where the players are, where the big men are. You got to get a body on them, and you got to basically create a protective bubble around the rim in which you can win those. Turn Alabama into a one possession offense team. So every time they go down the floor, it's one shot and then they're done. Because
Yep.
if you can do that, they chuck a lot of shots. And while they make a lot of shots, they also miss a lot of shots. So they live and die by the threes. And the more threes that you're going to give them in the same possession, the chances are they're probably going to punish you. So if you can make them be like 1-3 possession over, 1-3 possession over,
Correct.
you're going to have a really good chance to win this game, especially
Yeah.
if you slow it down. I think guard play. I think we've got one mismatch, and Braden Smith is probably going to be able to be a mismatch on Aiden Holloway if they're matched up. Phylon is probably a mismatch in the other direction with Fletcher Lawyer in terms of defense. Offensively, maybe it's closer. Fletcher's been starting out really well, shooting the three. So if he can keep that up, keep them honest, then I think we have a really good shot to win this game. The only problem is it's also at Bama. Crowd's going to get into it. There's going to be a lid on the rim for a while. And Bama
Yeah.
make a lot of threes when they're at home. So,
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like the shooting splits do favor the home team a little bit. I don't know what it is. I mean, we played well when we hosted them last year, and they were still a good team last year, obviously. Um, but I looked it up because I was curious. Yeah, Alabama's second in pace already, 77 possessions per 40 minutes. That's just absurd, right? So they're going to get their shots. They're going to get their shots up, right? And that's honestly the point that you made is probably the key to the game, and that's offensive rebounding, right? Can Purdue box out? Can you limit them to getting a second chance opportunity? Because they're probably going to miss. Like, I don't think Holloway's a really good jump shooter, but, if he takes 15 a game, he's going to hit like 4 or 5. It's just, he's not at worse than a 20%. But that's the key to the game for me, right? We really struggle with that against Oakland, right? Oscar Clough really hasn't impressed me in that regard in terms of, snagging every rebound off the glass here and there. And it certainly helps when Trey comes back because we didn't have that threat on the glass in our first 2 games, but it's definitely a point of emphasis. I know Payne's talking about it pregame, probably did all of it. And we had a good long break in between games, so I'm sure that was something he was harping on going into this one. And regardless of the outcome, before we do all that stuff, I think it's a really good test. It's going to tell you where you're at as a team, and it's going to spring ahead going forward into these maybe easier non-conference games, into that Thanksgiving tournament, into then conference play. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think happens tonight? What do you think?
yeah. So as I'm predicting, I'm looking at a couple things like offensive rebounding. The other thing I really look at is Alabama is because they're extremely athletic, they are very good at drawing fouls. And Purdue, when we were there, the only real trouble we had, even when we had Edie and other people, is when we got into early foul trouble against a lot of these teams. Because let's be honest, like Purdue starting five, one of the best in the country, amazing. Depth wise, there isn't a whole lot, especially when you talk about down low. Guards, obviously, you got Jakari Harris, CJ Cox. That's good depth. But down low, Jacobson, if he's going to come in and play, is going to have to play like a grown man, not like a 18-year-old kid, not like a 19-year-old kid. He's going to have to really step up and be tough down there and not get pushed around. Hopefully, he can do that. We just got to make sure that you defend without fouling against an Alabama team that's going to fling themselves at the rim if they can't get that three shot to go. If you close out on the three, their next best option is to drive as hard as humanly possible into your chest and try to get a foul or get a lay just with how athletic they can move.
Right.
So we've seen that a lot. So if you can defend without fouling, I think Purdue's got a very good shot.
And that's the other thing that happens with home and away, right? I feel like those whistles lean towards the home team, and it's really frustrating, but it's part of the game and kind of something you need to expect going in.
Well,
Um,
SEC refs are also known for being like, this is coming from someone who's watched a lot of SEC ball. SEC refs in football and in basketball are just really hard to watch. Like you look at a lot of big SEC games in basketball down the stretch last year, it just turned into free throw contests because it felt like every time somebody flung themselves in the air and because they can jump so high and move their body in so many ways, it looks like they're getting flung around by the defender, even if you
yeah,
up. So,
yeah, it's
um,
hard to officiate. I mean, I'll give the guys credit; it's hard, but it gets out of hand a little
so if I'm
sometimes.
predicting
But
the team, we're just gonna get down to it. I'm gonna go probably, sadly, I'm gonna go with Alabama. But like you said, I think this would be a good loss for Purdue, especially if you keep it within 10 points and you're in it late in the game. I think it's a good learning point for Purdue. I just think you catch early in the season. Bama's coming off a big win against St. John's in Madison Square Garden. They're going to be ready to play and they're going to get their get back from last year. We got them in our place. It's only fair kind of that they get us in their place. And as much as I want to take Purdue, I think it's just too early for this team with a couple new pieces in there, just with Oscar Clough down there in the big, to really be that fundamentally sound engine that we see Purdue by the end of the year. So I'm going to give the nod to Alabama, really hoping that Purdue can pull it out there tonight.
yeah, obviously cheering for Purdue would be so big to win this game after they bumped us down to two for no reason. I guess the Oakland game was like a little bit of scary, right? And that it is fair, right? We had Oakland out rebounding us sometimes, right? Getting opportunities off the glass, off bad shots, right? Which is where you let teams stay in the game. And I actually thought Jacobson played well. To your point, where you were talking about him, I think he played well in terms of rim protection and what he brings in that regard. But that was against Oakland and Evansville, right? Now you're playing Alabama, so that's another huge test for him because when he inevitably comes off the bench, can he be a threat at the rim? But not a lot of meat on that guy, so it should be an interesting watch. All things considered, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I really don't love what I saw in that Oakland game in terms of rebounding because now you get a team that's gonna fly at the glass and gonna generate second chance looks, right? Much like Oakland did, even probably at a higher pace, and get as many get as many shots up against your defense that's kind of struggled a little bit. So hoping Purdue wins, but I really wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, and we can move on. Look back on this as a learning point and put together some wins after this game. So
Yeah.
that's
No.
what I have to say. We'll keep it brief, but it should be a good basketball game. Really good chess match, probably. We'll see which Alabama defender Painter wants to attack. Probably Holloway, and then how Nate Oates wants to dissect the Purdue defense. Probably much like he did with St. John's. St. John's probably it's a much better defensive team than we are. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, it should be a really interesting one. TKR went off last year in this game, so he had 26 when they played last year. But just being
That's
in,
huge for him to have back too. So that's a thing to
I
watch.
agree.
That'll be
I
first
think,
time in this offense where we see Trey.
yeah, no, I agree, and I think part of the reason I went with Alabama is just because it is going to be that first game back for Trey. So I think it's going to take a little while to get into the flow of things. I think if maybe he was there from the start of the season, we saw a different team play Oakland. I think it's just going to be difficult anytime in college basketball to go on the road against a top 10 team and go get a win. So
Yeah,
it was difficult when they came to Mackey. It's going to be even more difficult going on the road to Tuscaloosa. But
without a doubt.
overall, amazing college basketball game. That's the main part of it. Both teams
Just
are,
appreciate it. Just appreciate the basketball. Appreciate the athleticism from them, from us. For hopefully we see some elite shot making in a quality game because these are two teams that are at the top of their conferences and two elite conferences, and hopefully we look back on this game as the low point in the year, or
yeah,
maybe this is a start of something great.
I agree. That it could be. And the over-under is 173, so expect points.
I mean, yeah, we talked about the tempo, so that's
Yep.
probably why the line's that high because this team's going to chuck, especially in their own building. Probably going to shoot well in their own building, like we said. They go from Madison Square Garden back to their own. If you can shoot in Madison Square Garden, right, in an NBA arena, you'll be able to lay some in your own building where you practice and all that good stuff.
I agree. So should be a fun one. It should be an electric one. We're both going to be tuned in. Pretty much anybody who follows
Locked in.
will probably be locked in as well, dialed, one could say. So we'll go ahead and dial it in. But that's going to do
Seven
it for the
o'clock,
preview.
ESPN two.
Yep. There we go. So 7 o'clock, be ready. We will. And I hope you guys enjoyed the preview. If you guys want more single game previews, just let us know down in the comments. We can start doing this a little bit of shorter episodes. But this is a big game today, the only big game. So this should be on your TV. So
Yeah,
get
don't watch that massacre of an NFL game either. I know you
oh my
weirdos
God.
out there.
We don't need to talk about that.
No.
So yeah, but should be a fun one. And then we will see you guys tomorrow for our college football picks. And then later on, maybe for some more college basketball. So good luck to Purdue tonight. Boiler up and
Hammer down, baby. Let's go.
peace.